Hey, what's up, dude?
I have never noticed more articles about doing AIEO like we talked about last week.
Oh,
You were talking
really?
about how you were adjusting your
Oh, yeah, yeah,
website
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
it was
yeah.
more searchable by
Chat
AI.
GPT EO. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have seen nothing but articles on that for the past week.
Really? Because my algorithm is still Legos and food, but okay. And so wait, hold on. Doing that, and we'll have our guests Amy and Rayanne talk about selling your MSP up in a minute. Am I doing the right thing? Because like I've been really deep into this like Chat GPT, like working through my website thing.
I, I I think so because I haven't been reading all the articles. I've been glancing at them because it is interesting. I think that's the way things are going. I mean,
Yeah.
the older generation, they're using it as the new search engine, right?
I have gone through and I've done a lot of pages and I've had to rewrite pages and I've had to add it's able to determine the alt text on my imagery and things like that to make the site more readable by the spiders, by the crawlers, whatever. And we talked about this last week where like the system caches pages and such. What I've gone to the next step was I asked it, how does my website now read to you? And it was like, it's great. And I was like, how does it read with the other systems? And it couldn't do that. It made me go to like Perplexity to do it.
Right.
I went to Perplexity and I said, hey, I'm looking for an Apple, IT support in New York City. And it did not find my website at all. Like it was nowhere near. Now, Perplexity did find a lot more break fix shops. So like my friend Mike, who owns Mike's Tech Shop in the city, showed up, but there was a lot of like you break, I fix stores because it's a commonplace in Manhattan. Those showed up. So I went back to ChatGPT and I was like, hey, how come Perplexity can't find my website? And it started to come up and list me things that I never even thought about, such as like websites that may list our company in some sort of like public domain listing system. So as an example, one of them is clutch.co, which I never heard of before, which apparently is like major for MSPs. And if you've heard of it, please tell me more about it. But I didn't pay for it. I went with the free thing just to get myself listed there. And I filled in as much as I could before I got like stonewalled to having to pay them $500 for the year. And I was like, and then I went back to ChatGPT and I was like, is it worth it? And ChatGPT was like, no. I was like, all right, cool. No, it gave me pros and cons. I just like at the end of the day, like I'm not going to send my customers to clutch.co for reviews when we have the Apple Consultants locator.
Right. Right.
So because of that, I'm not going to pay them the money.
Well,
But
then stop saying clutch.co so it doesn't get picked up.
it's fine. I want them to know that I'm not going to pay them. They can, or give me a free account. Hi, you can find me on the internet. So one of the things though, it was just interesting though, like there's all of these other things beyond your own website. And I don't have it in front of me right now. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But all these other places where your visibility needs to be. All right, so here we go. It took a second. You know what the other thing is that I find when you're using ChatGPT and you're going for like a long period of time, the page takes forever to render.
Yes, I have noticed that just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right. So directory optimization plans is what it came up with. So core listings already live, could use some polishing. We already did my consultant's profile, my Google profile, Apple Maps, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, already done with those. Secondary ones, Chamber of Commerce, Yellow Pages, Silex, UpCity, Design Rush, which we have both, Duns and Bradstreet, and then high value new directories to add. This is where I think the big one is. Clutch.co, G2, Manta, Hot Frog, never heard of them, local.com, City Search, and then weirdly, this one just says Apple-related blogs and forums, which isn't really helpful.
I want to know who's still using yellowpages.com.
If they are, they're not my customer. So
Exactly.
There's no reason for me to go in there. But what's funny about that is like thinking in that regards, we're doing some phone work today. So like we're moving from our current phone provider to Zoom phones. And so we're in the SIP area looking at all the phone numbers. And we have someone who used to work for us, or two people who used to work for us managed all of our phones a long time ago. there's a bunch of phone numbers in there. I was like, I don't even know what half of these people are. And so one of them is a company we acquired, old name. And so the only reason I figured it out was I Googled the phone number and their MapQuest listing showed up. And I was like, should I bother trying to take ownership of this business and change it? Like, is it worth it? Or should I like just let this one go?
Oh, that sounds like too much work. I'm just going to go play with Nano Banana.
You know what? We're going to end it right there.
Level up your email domain security and deliverability. Reduce business email compromise and reel in that pesky email phishing. Make DMARC a new revenue stream for your MSP. Becoming a managed service provider partner with Easy DMARC is a great opportunity for your business to boost sales and decrease risk. Your customers need DMARC. Your job is to let them know that their email domain might be at risk. Find out more today at atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. That's atmsp.link/EasyDMARC. Operating an MSP sucks. Gozinta is here to make it suck less. With their consulting services, they are your trusted advisors through every step of your MSP's journey, from startup to exit. And their software is crafted with care to ensure that they're solving problems for you and not creating new headaches. Find out more at atmsp.link/Gozinta. That's atmsp.link/Gozinta.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the All Things MSP podcast. I'm your host, Justin Esgar, and with me always is my good friend and Yosemite Scruff. His beard is bigger than his six shooters, Mr. Eric Anthony. What's up, buddy?
Do I have six shooters? Yeah, exactly.
I did watch the new Space Jam movie this weekend with my kids. Don't do that.
Hey, it's still coming along. We're going to see how long I can grow this thing by the end of the year.
For the record, also, I am in no position to say anything about your beard because I'm 3 weeks into this because I'm just being lazy. But you know who's not lazy? Our guest. I love it when we have a guest. And today we have two of them, Amy Babinchak and Rayanne Buchianico. I think I got it right.
You did.
Together, they are doing the Sell My MSP Strategic Exit Assessment. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Thank you for having us on the show.
Thanks for taking some time to be here. So real quick, for those at home, why don't the two of you introduce yourselves? I guess Amy will have you go first alphabetically, and then give it like a 2-minute spiel who you are and what is the Strategic Exit Assessment from Sell My MSP.
My name is Amy Babinchak. I am what am I? I am so many things. Now I'm a former MSP owner. I had one for 23 years and I sold it. I also have third tier, and Rayanne and I do Sell My MSP together. I'm both a technical and a businessy person. I've been a Microsoft MVP for 20 years as well. So, and that's in the area of Microsoft 365 and security. I'm actually awarded twice this year, so that's kind of fun. And Brandon and I have been doing Sell My MSP for 10 years. So we had to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and we were like, well, what do we want to do differently now that we've been doing this for 10 years? And we decided that, what we really want to do differently is we want to try to reach out to more people. We've been working with people one-on-one, like one at a time, over the years. And we're like, there's a lot more people than this that need help because we see them all the time and they're not doing things quite the right way. So we created a free assessment to help them figure out where they are and what they need to improve on before they get to the stage of exiting.
That's awesome. Ram.
Yeah.
Done. Hello, I'm Rayanne Buchianico. With my first core business is ABC Solutions, and we're an accounting firm. We focus on helping MSPs take good care of their business and track their finances and understand their financials and their KPIs and all of the things. And so 10 years ago, actually, Amy and I started Sell My MSP because we started to see a lot of some of the MSPs looking to exit. And we started with the plan that we were just going to help them through. When I sold my first business, I used a firm that specialized in selling accounting firms. So I thought, well, wait a minute, who's doing this in the IT community? And then Amy and I started talking, and we decided that this was a need that we needed to fill. So we started to do that. And like she was saying, we built this assessment to kind of assess your readiness for an exit strategy. And that helps set the foundation to build that strategy so that you can exit, or an MSP can exit, and obtain the highest value possible.
That's awesome. So I'm assuming that this assessment goes beyond the normal things like within an M&A or sale like that, where it's just about the EBITDA, right? Because for those big M&A firms that we know of, it all comes down to that. I'm making the assumption here that this goes beyond that, and it makes the MSP who wants to sell look better to the buying MSP because they want them to see more than just, let's say, the dollars. Yes.
I'll take that one if it's okay. Okay, so yes, this is a whole company assessment. It's going to assess your readiness and the state of your documentation at the organizational level, the operational level, your SOPs, your finances, your marketing, your scalability, your exit plan, your exit selling pitch. Like, there are so many steps along the way. It's so much more than just EBITDA. And we do actually offer the ability to have a starting valuation so that you can see. That's not included in the free assessment. Just wanted to put that out there. But we do offer that ability, and so that will give you a solid starting point, and then you can see your progress over time.
That's awesome. And when should somebody be thinking about this? Because, as a business person, there's always the idea of exiting, right? The best advice given to any entrepreneur is get into a business and already know what your exit's going to look like, right? So where in an MSP's journey should they be looking at this? Should everybody today who's listening immediately go and get this assessment done because they don't know if they're going to sell tomorrow or in 30 years from now?
30 years is probably a bit long. What they should do is, if you're probably within 5 years or so, you definitely want to figure out where you're at. But really, you could use the assessment. You can kind of use it anywhere along the way, because it's really about figuring out if you're running your business in a way that's attractive. And attractive businesses are well-run businesses. So are you running your business in a well-run manner? That's what the assessment is truly about, right? Are you running it in a well-run manner, and is that documented so that you can show it to a potential buyer and have them say, "Oh wow, this business actually looks really good." Because you brought up the EBITDA. Every buyer that comes your way is going to have their own version of what they think EBITDA is, and they're going to have in their head some number that makes it okay for them to investigate your business further. So that's all that EBITDA number tells them, right? Is this a company that I should be looking at or not, right? Does it meet my baseline criteria? And then after that, then they start digging into your business and figuring out, are you making money? Are your clients stable? Is everything documented? How many staff do you have? What are their capabilities? Huge range of stuff, and that's all the stuff that's in our assessment.
Right. Yeah, because EBITDA is going to give you a number. Sorry, EBITDA is going to give you a number, but it's not going to let that number doesn't say I've had customers for 10 years and have been with me for 10 years, right? Like, those are the kinds of things that I would think would be attractive to a buyer. Granted, the buyer is like, "Oh, I like that," and as soon as you sell the business, the client's like, "I don't know who this new guy is. I'm out." But in theory, right, a buyer would like to buy an MSP who has long-term customers, and that's not something that shows up in number like an EBITDA, which is just a multiplier of some level of profit.
the EBITDA is actually before the multiplier, and that's the next thing that everybody seems overly concerned with. What's the multiple that I can get on my company? I don't, and my first answer is, I don't know. What do you do differently? Like, what's your secret sauce? And do you have a defined secret sauce? And how long can you go on vacation and have your business still be there when you return? Like, so as we're going through all of the different steps, we need to help the MSPs find a way to work their way out of a job, because isn't that what we're talking about? When they sell that business, they're no longer going to have a job, and it needs to be able to run smoothly without them. And if all you have is owner-led sales and owner-led services with an owner-led account manager, then you have an owner-led business. And it has to be able to run independent of that person.
That's kind of a big point there, Rayanne. Like you're saying, as you're saying that, I was thinking, of course, I always relate this back. Anyone who listens knows that I relate this always back to my own company, because that's all this podcast is my own therapy, right? And like we're in the process of training up a junior account manager, and I know I can leave for a couple of days or a week at a time, and it's fine. But like, I can't imagine leaving for a month or 2 months and it being fine. I would like to hope that my company is at that point. But to your point, everybody wants to be able to make the most money they can. But so many MSPs, especially those smaller 1 to 2 person shops, where it is so owner driven, the value of the entire MSP is not equal to the dollar amount that may show up in an accounting assessment, right? Because if it's all owner driven and that owner is no longer there, is the value still with that company, or can that buying MSP retain the value that they're spending on this company?
If they plan it well, they can, right? So, because we do work with quite a few one-person shops, and sorry, Amy, I want to give you the floor on this, but we do work with a number of one-person shops, and there is value to that customer base, to the business, regardless of what the big conglomerates tell you. Those accounts have value, and if you structure your company right, whether you're one person or 100 people, you can build those processes in so that they are easily transferred to the next person. And it really comes down to, proper planning. Amy, take the rest of that.
Rayanne knows I have an opinion about this.
Yeah. Everybody, if you're driving your car, make sure you're buckled in for this one.
Yeah, well, when Ray and I started this business, we were at a conference, and there was a guy up on stage, famous guy, still today, saying, if your business isn't worth $10 million, it's worth 0. You can't sell the small company. You have to grow, grow, grow. And I saw Rayanne later, and I said, "Were you in the session? What this? Did you hear? We hear." We were like, "That's a bunch of BS. Like, that is not true. We need to start a business and fix this." Because I don't want all the small companies to just go, "Oh, well, we're 4 people, and I'm just going to close the door tomorrow. Good luck to everybody." Honestly, that people were doing that. They were just like, "Yeah, I just found out my business doesn't have any value, so I guess I'll just give away a few of my clients to a friend and walk off into the sunset." It's like, you put 20 years into this; it has value. And so even if you're a one-person shop, which Rand brought up those solopreneurs, God love them. They created an awesome job for themselves, right? And they often have clients that are 20, 30 years with them. And there's some value to that. It's not the same multiple as a, multi-million-dollar company, but there's value there, and they should absolutely get the value out of that. And what they can do to help make that transition, we counsel people on this quite often. They're usually really personally involved with all of their clients, right? They've known them, they know their kids, they know everything about this company. They have that relationship, they own it, and that's where the value is in their company, is that relationship. And so we've helped them focus on transferring that relationship to somebody else. And if you can transfer that relationship, you can do it by having the owner go out and talk to their clients and say, hey, I have picked this person who is going to take the ball from here so that I can go retire, and give the customers that comfy feeling. Then that's how they retain that value in there. So the buyer has that continuity to make that transition to them, and all the clients come right on over then.
And I imagine that it probably still has a lot to do with how good the operating procedures are and how good the books are and how well all of that stuff is in line and able to be transferred easily, in addition to the harder work of transferring the relationship.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how small you are. You still have to have all the same processes and documentation, right? The buyer is going to hit you with the same due diligence tasks as they would come to any business.
So I think all of those things that you talk about with the larger ones still applies to the one man band, let's call it. Now, the big tragedy that I unfortunately see a lot is when somebody has built a business for 10, 20 years. It's on the small side, less than 5 total characters in the office. And they haven't done the things that you guys are recommending to do to get ready for an exit because they weren't planning on an exit. And so something happens where they can no longer run their business, or maybe they're no longer here, unfortunately. And, their family could derive value from that business. One of the things that I'm passionate about is making sure that people who aren't planning on exiting right now still have an exit plan and are building to that exit plan. Do you guys kind of help with that situation as well? Would the assessment help with that?
Well, the assessment would help a great deal with that. And it's, I'm taking this. I'm in this MBA course right now, and we're building a growth plan. It's going to take us 9 months or whatever. Anyway, the very first week, we had to write our exit plan. Like, that is the first step in planning your growth, right? What they've always said: start with the end in mind. What does it look like when you get there? What's your vision? All of that. So I think that, yes, if that person that woke up one day and for whatever reason could no longer run their business, if they had all of these pieces in place, then it would be so much easier for them to either sell it or maybe, have a family member come in and pick up the pieces and move forward. I'm actually in one of those situations right now where dad was the owner and passed away in his sleep, and the son was the tech and left all of the stock and doesn't know the first thing, right? Like, there's no crumbs anywhere. So, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard enough to lose your father, right? It's doubly hard, to try to keep the business running right after you've just lost your father. And it's even triply hard if there's no breadcrumbs, there's no path to follow along the way. So to both of your points and your questions earlier, start when you can, like today, tomorrow, hopefully not next year, but just get it in place.
My exit strategy, as deemed by my friends, is that I'm going to start a popover truck because I make really good popovers. So like, I'm out and I'm going to get like a little fancy truck and I'm just going to make popovers all day and fancy butters and jellies.
Sign me on to your Instagram. I love a good pop.
You're more than welcome. I will give you free popovers. You're totally welcome, Amy.
Sure.
So I want to ask a question about this because you brought something up, Rayanne, about the person who passed away. So this actually happened to a friend of mine, that he was working for a particular MSP and the owner passed away. The wife didn't really have a clue about the business and then went and got the business evaluated. And there was this turmoil around how the business was being evaluated and the multiplier. And my friend left and just started his own company. Now, the kicker to all of this was that the original company, had clients, but none of them were under contract. How does that affect the saleability of a customer? Because we hear a lot about contracts in our industry, right? We have companies out there that we all hate that have 36-month contracts that you need to do 90-day, alerting and kill a crow to get out of that contract. And then we have other companies on the other side that are like, no, we don't do contracts. It's month to month. And then we have other companies that are like 12-month contract, but high watermarks. Like it's all this, we're all over the board when it comes to contracts. What is, in your opinion, the ideal type of contract that an MSP should have to like maximize their value in a sale?
Here's the thing. You just said that you hated 3-year contracts. Your clients probably hate them too. Like you hate them. You don't like to deal with your vendors in a 3-year contract. Remember, you're a vendor to your customer. They don't like to deal with you in a 3-year contract either. So is it great for your business valuation? Probably is, but it's really not great for customer relations. So you got to kind of walk that line. I'm a bigger fan of the 1-year contract. In my business, I was probably we did have contracts, but I left them open ended. They didn't expire, and I wasn't thinking about doing that because of because of a sale. I wasn't thinking that when I did this. But reason I did it is because I didn't want to have to go around and have the renewal conversation.
Yeah.
It was a very, very selfish motive. But when it came down to selling, I could say, yeah, we do have a contract that establishes a relationship between my company and my clients' companies, and defines what that relationship is. So I think it is important that you have contracts. Definitely, clients without contracts tend to get thrown into the break-fix bucket. And if you're thrown into the break-fix bucket, it's like 10% the value of the MSP bucket.
So then what would you think would have more value? A 1-year contract that consistently gets renewed that maybe you've had for 2 or 3 years, or a contract that you just let continue that you've had for 5, 6, 7 years?
I don't think there's any difference. What do you think, Rayanne? Have we seen much difference in that?
I really don't. I want to say probably more important than that signed piece of paper is the longevity of the relationship with the customer. Even if there is no signed piece of paper, but that customer has been with you and paying that monthly fee for the last 20 years, what is the motivation for them to pick up and leave because you've sold the business to somebody else? And like Amy said earlier, the real work will come in when the existing owner brings in the new owner, makes that personal introduction and say, hey, I have chosen this person. We have the same values. We have the same business, views, and they are going to now take care of you because I'm doing whatever it is that I'm going to do when I sell. But yes, I know that a lot of people put a lot of heavy weight on the 3-year contract, the 1-year contract. We run our contracts much like Amy did. Yes, they say that they're good for a year, but you know what? If you don't want to do business with us after 6 months, let us know. In 30 days, we'll hand you off and you can go off into the sunset. Like, we're not going to tie you to that. If you're really unhappy here, we're not going to make you stay. And I really want to say that most MSPs have that same, that same business sense that they also want to do right by us.
I think that's because so many of us use the same lawyer for like all of our contracts.
That's true, but I mean, who wants to do business with somebody who doesn't like you?
Exactly.
Like, sorry, I'm stuck in this miserable situation because there's a contract.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like you need a divorce lawyer. It's like,
oddly enough, that's his side gig when he's not doing MSP contracts. He's doing divorces.
No, we want him back on the show, so let's not malign him.
I literally wrote a note down that I have to call him because I have to deal with something. I just put a note down to remind myself to call him in a minute.
So
the big deal for selling your MSP is, do you have contracts? You need to have contracts of some kind. It will make your business more valuable.
Right.
You figure out what kind of contract you're comfortable with. The other thing is going to make the transition easier. The customer had a contract with you. Oh, here's the contract with the new person who's going to be taking care of you. You don't have to explain like, well, we never had a contract for the last 20 years. Why do we need one now, right? You don't have to go through that pain point. You smooth that out. Make sure you've got a contract with every customer of whatever kind contract makes you happy.
Yep, I think that's a good point. Now, before we wrap up here, I do want to get into some specifics about the assessment. And I guess the first question I have about it is, what are the key components that you guys are gathering or having them gather with this assessment?
Take it, Rayanne.
I'm going to try and do this by memory. The organizational structure, financial, operations and service delivery, scalability, marketing, and exit.
Okay.
Those are the five, however many
Also,
there
if
were.
you were wrong, no one on this, well, maybe Amy would, but like Eric and I wouldn't know. So you could be, we'll just say you nailed it in one.
And how long should somebody expect to take to fill out the assessment? And then I suppose you guys give them some type of response to the assessment.
Yeah, it takes them about 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that, because we're not asking them to do anything, right? Here's a question. Where do you fall between a scale of, 0 to 10? Like, where are you on this scale as far as having this thing completed? And so, like Rayanne said, we ask them about different categories of things. It's pretty detailed. They go through all this stuff. In the end, they come out, and then we do shoot them back a report. And the report has next steps. Like, here's where you are. This is what you have to do next. So it's useful to them. It's not they know then what to do next. Now, what we want them to do next, they can go off and do it alone if they want to. But you don't have to do it alone, because like we started this conversation with, there is a process to selling your business. This is a known thing. You don't have to make it up. You don't have to worry about, you don't have to step into an unknown universe of stuff. So we take them into our working group. In the working group, they're going to go through their own personal path to completing that assessment and getting their business to a state where it is documented and understandable to anybody who wants to look at it. And then the final step is, of course, the sale, right? And Rayanne will coach you all the way through that day of signing it off at the bank.
And even beyond, if they want, right? Like, we can help with a lot of the transition work as well.
Yeah, the beyond is the beyond is the part that was most surprising to me when I sold my company. And we've been doing this for a while, and I'd see people sell their company and stuff, but I don't think it ever really sunk in what it was like after you sell your business. It finally, I had to do it once in order to really feel it. And the phrase I finally came up with that described it is, I said, I felt like I just sold my cat. Right? It was like there was no like high at the end, like, people say, the best day of boating is when you buy your boat. The second best day is when you sell your boat. Yeah. This is totally not true, because I'm a boater and I will be so depressed when I have to sell my last boat. But for selling your business, it was like selling my cat. Like, I felt a sense of loss. And because you do it, right? It's a huge life change. It's as big of a life change as any other major life changes that you go through. This has been a part of your life for a very long time, and now it's gone. And yeah, you've got a fatter bank account, and maybe that will kick in eventually. That so you have this excitement and you've got this sadness to deal with at the same time.
And aside from the emotional side of selling your business, because there is that huge personal loss that you feel, but you don't get to feel that for the first 90 days after the sale of the business, because you will never work as hard as you do in your life as you do after within that first 90-day period. That transition period, and I try to prepare people for that 90-day transition period and how much work is really involved, all of the things, the getting changing the auto pays and changing this and changing that and transferring this and everything, plus still keeping the business running. It's a lot of work. So if you think that you can just do it by yourself, just have somebody on speed dial, like your lifeline, because you will need it.
As someone who's bought three businesses over the last 5 years, like, it's funny, like, we last acquired somebody in 2021, and like even earlier today we're like looking to move phone system stuff, and we're like, oh, this is still in like an old system from before we acquired. It's been 4 years, we haven't had to touch it. And there's like, you always uncover things. And to what you said earlier, Amy, like about the boating thing, yeah, like, to anyone who's owned a business and everyone who's listening, you understand this, because this is something you've grown up, right? This is like having a kid. You created this thing, you brought it into this world, you've nurtured it, hopefully you've grown it, hopefully, and hopefully your business is better than my actual kids, because they're a pain in the ass. But like, and then you sell it and you're just like, oh, it's Tuesday and I don't have anything. Why am I waking up today? Because I don't have to go to work. Like, it's a little depressive when you think about it, which is why I'm guaranteeing myself to open a pop-up truck so I can go do something. But like, it is a big like emotional and mental shift that has to happen when you sell your business. So I totally understand where you're coming from with like, selling your cat or anything like that. I want to ask one last question before we finish it up. What if there was one thing, and maybe there's not, but if there was one thing that would make a business more sellable, like, what's the one thing other than taking the assessment that an MSP could do when they're done listening to this podcast that they should be doing today to make their business more attractive for a sale?
Document. They've got to document stuff. Like, they got to document everything. I mean, because you bought businesses, and I bought some books of business when I had my MSP as well. And if you don't have the documentation on how this business runs, who the vendors are, when the licenses are due, if you can't look at the chart of accounts and say, and this is Rayanne's area, but look at the chart of accounts and say, oh, this is how this business makes money, right? That, like, if it just looks like a checkbook, money in, money out, because your non-MSP focused accounting firm just only cares about that, but doesn't understand that you have buckets of money, that some is reoccurring, some's projects, some's different kinds of things that need to be tracked, then your business has a problem. So documenting all of that, and that's totally the reason why we created that assessment, to get MSPs on that path.
That's awesome. Well, Amy, Rayanne, thanks so much for being here. Where can people get the assessment? How much does it cost? What is it? What do they have to do to get started?
Assessment is free.
Awesome.
And it's currently hosted over on thirdtier.net. And so if you go over there, you can click on the assessments right on the front page, and that will kick off your free assessment. Take it. We'll give you the report also for free. And then hopefully we will help you sell your business somewhere down the line.
So if you're on the page, you should see a nice little GIF of Jimmy Fallon. If you don't see that, you're on the wrong assessment. Get to the proper assessment at thirdtier.net. Eric, any final words before we say goodbye to the loyal listeners?
I would just say that do this sooner rather than later, because you never know when an exit's going to happen. And worst case scenario, if you do the assessment, it's going to give you action items that are in the end just going to make your business run better.
Yeah.
And that's going to make you more profitable, even if you're not ready to exit yet.
Yeah. I'm 100% going to do this over the weekend and just see where I land. So good luck to Amy and Rayanne trying to figure out my business.
We'll give it a go. We've seen it all by now, man.
Right.
Challenge accepted. If you want to find out more about Amy and Rayanne, check out thirdtier.net. Go to the Sell My MSP Strategic Exit Assessment and go get that done. If you want to find out more about us, facebook.com/group/all things MSP. Check us out in our high def glory at youtube.com/@all-things-MSP. Listen and subscribe. Ring the bell on all your favorite podcasting tools. Listen, what I want you to do is listen to this on like Apple Podcasts and then listen to it again on Spotify and then listen to it again on iHeartRadio just to piss Beardy off because it throws off the numbers when we look in the back end. Please leave a review. That's all I got to say. That's Amy. That's Rayanne. That's Eric. I'm Justin. Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Esgar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. And a big thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Helped, GoZinta, MoveBot, and Nodeware. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.